Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Mark Stimberg. I'm the senior media reporter at AdWeek, and today we're going to be talking about how brands can win in the AI era. And to do that, we have not only experts, but practitioners, I think, as we were talking about a little bit backstage, who have hands-on experience with some of the systems that we're talking about and are really helping shepherd brands sort of, conduct AI transformations themselves, or sort of, do it internally, as is the case with Zephyr a little bit. So Richard, actually, I'd love to sort of start on that note. In terms of, AI transformation, Zephyr's sort of changed its MO. It went from being really sort of like a brand suitability operation, now helping companies implement AI within their own processes. Can you talk a little bit about that transformation?
Sure. So ultimately, Zephyr is a company that's full of data scientists, and we've been on this train of, actually Nicola and I were, and Denis, we were talking backstage. I mean, everything that's happening in AI, the models are just larger now, right? These foundational models are just larger models, but deep learning, neural networks, advanced machine learning, this has been a process that's been happening for 15 years. And so what we saw, just because we're a company that's steeped and rooted in this, as we were talking to marketers and companies, we just saw a lot of, candidly, there was a lot of misinformation about what AI was, what it could do, what systems it was. And so we just thought, look, we are very educated on this, and we try to speak normally. We don't try to speak over our clients' heads. We don't try to talk in acronyms only. And we said, look, we think we're in a very good place to be able to help our clients understand the capabilities that they can unlock with these new systems, even outside of how we're helping them. So we very much see ourselves as a company. We're in the brand safety and suitability space on the walled gardens, but we very much see ourselves as AI experts. We've had a chief AI officer since 2017, when the role didn't even exist. And so the idea is that we want to help educate our clients, but in a very practical way. Not talk over their heads, not talk about, Denis was talking about AI operating system. Well, what does this mean? Like actually talk about how it can be implemented, so.
Well, in terms of implementation, Nicola, I'd love to turn it over to you a little bit. Coty, as it says up there, since 1904, more than a century old, you're helping spearhead some of the AI implementation there, specifically as it pertains to media and media strategy. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yes, sure. Indeed, like to the point earlier, we started the journey far before, the boom of Gen AI. We started the journey actually more than 5 years ago with the ambition to create a data-driven media organization in order to be in a position to better inform and better drive the process that were done by our partners to move towards precision marketing, being able to address the right message to the right person, experience marketing, and performance marketing. So that was the ultimate goal, and for us, ultimately to drive efficiency and effectiveness on the massive amount of NCP that we are having in our company. So what we have done is that we've set up a program consisting to first getting access to data, then starting to use AI and machine learning in order to process this data, in order to inform the decision that we are making internally in terms of portfolio management, in terms of allocation, and then starting as well to using it to support the decision that were made by our partners, our agencies, in terms of media planning, in terms of media campaign optimization, etc., etc. So that allowed us to create a playbook that is never finished, by the way. I mean, this playbook is something that is living and that we are constantly optimizing, as the ecosystem is bringing new capabilities constantly, especially the last 2 years. But yeah, we had that as a very pragmatic approach, making sure that we are not guided by the hype, buying solutions that nobody were using, but only buying solutions that were making sense versus the playbook that we wanted to build or the engine that we wanted to build internally.
When you mentioned this idea of a marketer playbook, I'd love to dive a little bit more into that in the sort of hopes of being as specific as possible here. What is in this playbook, or what is in this toolbox that you're sort of giving to your marketing team to help unlock some efficiencies?
Well, there are like the basics, which are like first of all, like to make sure that we are like getting access to these insights. We all need to speak the same language within the organization. So it's a basic. It means that standardizing taxonomy, standardizing like the KPI framework, standardizing the measurement framework, making sure that we are all aligned on the way to measure, the way to name like a brand or a product like within the organization. And then we've developed a framework in order to organize our test and learn as well. With the capabilities that were provided by the agencies and by the partners, making sure that we were learning on the different criteria that were influencing, the performance of these, initiatives, in order to be able to rapidly scale, what was working, within the organization. So that's like the type of information that we're using within that playbook, and obviously now with again the Gen AI acceleration, we are considering, optimizing this playbook with these new capabilities that are available.
If I can add to that a bit, I think for the multinational companies, we have all built the playbooks and shared our way of operating, our principles. But what has been challenging in a lot of companies is creating a memory and knowledge hub to inform the decisions so that we don't create the wheel every time, or we just learn from our mistakes. And that has never been easy. But now in the new age, actually with these connected systems, I see that much more possible, like actually taking these playbooks and guiding principles, but combining them with the real data and inform and update the playbooks real time to inform the decisions. So I think this is a clear value that I'm seeing to emerge with the advancement in AI.
Well, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about, sort of your role at Bayer is really charged with specifically getting the organization to implement AI. You're talking about making sure we're not all reinventing the wheel every day or whatever the case may be. Where do you sort of focus your efforts? I think a lot of people in the room want to build AI into their workflows, but maybe don't know how to go about that in the most efficient way. How have you sort of tackled that problem?
So we haven't tackled the problem yet, similar to most people in the room. But we look at it from a few different angles. The first thing is with AI, obviously there's a huge advantage of creating productivity. And we want everyone in the organization to adopt the tools and to use them and implement them to be more productive so they can reinvest their time into more meaningful work. But there's another element, which is reimagining the workflows, not bolting AI onto existing processes, which I believe is the worst because it actually complicates things. It adds additional steps. Instead of simplification, it actually makes things more complex. I think the workflow reimagination should be done from scratch, white paper exercise, and this is how we approach at an enterprise level. We select the high-value workflows that we have, and I call them workflows, not processes, because there should be an outcome attached to it, a sizable outcome. And usually these workflows are cross-functional, end-to-end, and when you actually sit down and do a white paper exercise, you start to see that a lot of those steps which were done in the past are quite obsolete, or there are things which we could have never done, but we could do now. Example, if we think about research, how we did research until yesterday, it took a lot of time for us to validate a concept. Right now, we can actually do that in 24 hours with AI interviews quite fast, or with a synthetic panel, etc. And these things introduce new steps, but create sizable value.
Well, Richard, I'd be curious about your thoughts on that. Obviously, as a sort of AI transformation company, I'm sure you come across a lot of organizations that have tried to implement AI or build it into their workflows, but have maybe messed up or done it in an improper fashion on some level. What are some of the sort of most common misconceptions or errant steps that you're seeing when it comes to companies trying to build AI into their systems?
That's a good question. I think basically companies need to have evangelists, like these two individuals at their companies, that are really striving to make sure that AI is not something to be feared but integrated. And I'm looking around, I see a lot of young people. I think you're in an incredible situation So my recommendation to you guys would be get a Claude account and Anthropic. It's $100 a month. That's kind of, but maybe they have student discounts for you guys. You should get that. By the way, you can if you have money, go get an iMac. You can download, or you can not. It's not download. You can put OpenClaw on it. OpenClaw. You should be playing with these tools in real time, because what Denise said is so true. Is that the fear I have for companies is when they're trying to overlay new technology onto old systems. 2 seconds, and I'm going to really quick. 25 years ago, I'm very old, by the way. I'm 59, I just turned 59. 25 years ago, I was taking a meeting. I got a meeting with the head of distribution. I live in LA with the head of distribution for Warner Brothers. He's the guy who puts all the people used to go to movie theaters to watch movies. Anyway, he put movies in movie theaters. Very powerful man. And I was sitting in the lobby, and I saw this woman. She was printing out something, and she took it into his office. She came out, and I said, "Oh, can I ask what you're doing?" And she says, "Oh, I print." Dan Feldman doesn't have emails. I print out his email, and then I read his email. Then I file his email, and then she showed me a big, long filing cabinet of where she filed the emails. And I said, well, you don't actually have to do that. It's stored in the cloud. I mean, this is 25 years ago. It was all there, or 20 years ago. Anyway, and she goes, no, you don't understand. I print out the email, and then I file it after I read it to him. And I thought, so we have a saying around Zephyr, like, don't be filing your emails. It's like, stay up, stay current, embrace new technologies. Don't try to lay older systems on top of newer systems. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I love that idea of, it's probably a somewhat fundamental concept, but this blank slate concept of, if you were building this today, forget the pre-existing workflow, how would you do it using the technology that you have at hand? Simple concept. I have to imagine that is harder to implement than it sounds in practice.
It's sometimes really awkward when you have the whiteboard, because we have our biases. But it's really important to have diverse profiles in that room. I've been working with a lot of engineers, very young engineers, and sometimes the perspective that they bring in is completely out of the box than what we as marketeers have been thinking we should do. They're like, well, why do you even do that? Like, basically, I can build you an agent, and you don't need to do reporting from now on for media and creative. Okay, so I think one recommendation is, when you're doing these exercises, bring in a lot of different perspectives to the room. Keep it still small, and try to leave the biases outside. And what Richard mentioned, I think, is the most important thing for all the marketeers. If you're not practicing experimenting with AI yourself, it's impossible to reimagine the possibilities. And I know that there's a lot of frustration, because you start using Claude, sometimes you fail big time, it doesn't work. It actually, you end up spending 2-3 hours trying to build something, it doesn't work. But this is the only way that we can learn.
Well, Nicola, given that the theme of this panel, I think, is, we haven't solved the problems yet. Where are we sort of on the process to solving them? Nicola, I'd love to get your thoughts when it comes to sort of implementing AI as it pertains to media strategy. What are the pain points that sort of still exist that you're still trying to work through, and how can you envision AI potentially solving those in the future?
Well, the main pain point to me is a people pain point. It's the resistance. It's the resistance that we are facing, internally, externally, by the ecosystem. Everyone is trying to make a locker to make it difficult. Tech is there. Like Richard was saying, you can pretty do almost everything now. The question is what do you want to do, for what, and what are you expecting from that? So it's where we have a massive job to do, which is educating, reassuring, demystifying, orchestrating, breaking the silo across the team, across the partners as well, making sure that we are like bringing this fluidity, removing like all the pain points and all the friction that we are still facing in the day-to-day when we are trying to do like one task or one workflow. Even at a task level, like this is crazy how many people are working sometimes to do one simple task. You need to exchange like 50 emails like to do that task. Whereas it doesn't make any sense. I mean anymore today. Like this content is or the part to process the tasks are like available. You just need to follow like a structured approach in order to do it in the AI age that we're having right now. So I think that's the main challenge for us, and like Denise was saying, reinventing our workflow in the AI age, and not like continuing to put like stamp on the broken processes. And for that, like we need to be like super focused to secure like the sponsorship from the management on where we want to go, making sure that we are aligning like everyone in order to be like super directive and super focused.
I was just going to mention it, and I think Denise and Nicola nailed it on the head. The issue is more with people. The thing that's so exciting about AI is when you think about it, the white paper, Attention is All You Need, that introduced the transformer model came out in 2017. That along with, understanding that the chips that Jensen Huang was making, that they could do dual processing, that led to the explosion of these larger models. Since that time, the acceleration, like the models, every 6 months, we're getting better and better models. So that's what's exciting, is the capability is there. So ultimately, the issue is, how can people change to keep up with it? So it takes, I think, a lot of humility, because you have to get into stuff and kind of look stupid sometimes in front of people, right? In front of the people you work with. And so it takes a lot of humility, and it takes just an aggressive appetite to be able to learn new systems. And that's ultimately like why we've taken a very consultative approach with the companies we work with. We're like, look, we get it. You're nervous. You're nervous you're going to lose your job maybe or whatnot. We want to show you in very practical ways how you can leverage this technology to just open up everything.
Can I add something very quickly? I think the key to driving adoption of AI and mitigating that fear is through making it relevant and meaningful for the jobs, for people. We've tested a lot of trainings in our organization, different kinds, like general prompting, co-pilot trainings, etc., here and there. What is perceived as much more helping is to make the trainings and upskilling relevant for the specific jobs. And if you can actually show that, there's such an different level of enthusiasm that starts to actually build in the organization.
Well, and I think we'll have to wrap on this one, but Richard, I wanted to kind of throw the last question to you here. Talking about, you've mentioned to me this idea of, in the future, companies are going to have sort of bespoke AI tooling built in-house to serve their needs specifically. I'm curious, like, sort of how feasible do you think that is for the sort of average business? Or do you think like maybe more of an agency model where one organization takes care of the AI and you get to use it as needed could maybe be, more sustainable in the future?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's going to be just so relevant and applicable to individual businesses that I'm not sure you're going to need a ton of intermediaries and consultants as we go on. Mostly because you'll use, I mean, how many times have the other day I called my IT person. I said I couldn't figure out something on my computer. So I said, I need this. This thing keeps popping up. 15 minutes went by. They didn't come by the office. So I just went on Claude. And Claude told me how to do it in 2 minutes. I went, fixed it. She came in later, and I said, well, actually, Claude just fixed it. And you need to know that, like, you should be rolling this out to people, and this is a way you can expand your job. Not that you're going to lose your job. Your job is just going to change. I didn't need you to come to my computer and change this thing that I couldn't figure out. I just needed you. I had the thought to go to Claude. And I think this is where companies will start to, if they have employees that have that appetite to embrace So it's more the type of person that's going to be very employable than the type of job. Does that make a sense?
Well, I love that this conversation about AI ended up really being about people implementing AI, which I think fundamentally is like the challenge ahead of us, as we try to mainstream this technology. That is unfortunately all the time we have. So thank you so much for being here, everybody, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.